Hi, this is Allyse, and we're winding up the section that we've been talking about with placements. This is call number 45 on the daily mentor calls, and today we are specifically going to talk about how to solve our placements problem. So you've been waiting for this, right? Like this entire time you've been thinking, oh my goodness, I made that mistake, or oh my goodness, I've done that 3 times or whatever. Most of us in our businesses, as we look at our organizations, they're pretty messy, right? And what we want to do is figure out how to take this mess and make it into an organization that can be self-reliant and that we can have committed and capable leaders as our qualifying leaders across the board. So we are going to go over many things of how we can fix our placement problems. But I want you to remember that we have a webinar that goes with this series, and it goes over everything in detail, and it actually shows you what to do and draws it out for you. And I think this specific call, it's easier to watch it than to actually listen to it. But I'm going to go over it because some of you, you want to hear it, or you're in the car, or, you're washing dishes or whatever. We're going to go over it. And then I want you to go back and watch the entire webinar on placement so it's really, really clear. So let's just get into how to solve our placement issues. So I'm going to go over the easiest to the hardest things to do, starting with the easiest thing that we can do and then going to the hardest. And the first thing I want to tell you that's easiest, you're going to be shocked, because most people literally, they avoid this at all costs. So the easiest way to solve our problems when it comes to placements is to start a new leg, to build a new leg. Now, why are so many people hesitant of that? Why is that the last thing that people do? The reason why is most of them, or most of you, have not been properly trained on how to build successfully and how to get somebody from, nothing to elite in 6 weeks, and then do it 3 times and get somebody to silver in just several months. But I like to always say, when you learn things differently, when you understand differently, and you have the tools, well, your results will be totally different. So I don't want you to be afraid and think, it's taken me 2 years just to build this leg right here. I can't afford another 2 years. It won't be 2 years. It's going to be probably 6 weeks to a couple of months to rebuild what you had, but you're going to be choosing different people that are actually committed and capable, that want to do it themselves. You're going to be contacting effectively, following up effectively, picking the right people, getting them involved, and launching them effectively, right? Now, there's 2 ways to build a new leg, right? We can actually just put them on our front line and kind of just start over with a new leg right on our front line. And I've done that many, many times. And that's a total viable option. The second way that we build a new front line is we actually can place them under an existing leg. Now, remember, if we're choosing a new frontline, you don't choose a sharer or a product user or even just somebody that's committed or capable. You have to choose 2 C's, committed and capable leader. If we're going to put all the work into rebuilding someone or rebuilding a leg or starting over with this leg, don't do it with somebody that's not committed and capable. Keep looking, right? Keep looking until you find that person. So you can place this new committed and capable person under an existing leg. For instance, I'm going to give you an example. Let's say someone is diamond and they quit their job. They're doing this full time, but one of their legs is a sharer. So they have 3 CCs on the front line, which is great, right? Committed and capable people that keep their commitments and do what they say they're going to do, and also sign up their own people they can build for themselves. But one of them is a sharer, and this is the leg that you're pouring tons of time and energy in. It's kind of like the black hole, right? All of us kind of have a black hole in our organization. Well, if you just put the leg on the front line and focused your energies on that leg, you might take your energy off the share leg, because a lot of times that's where you have to put all your new enrollments under, and you might not qualify for diamond. And depending on the situation, right, sometimes that's okay if you can wait for a couple months until you can requalify with another builder. But sometimes that's not okay. Sometimes, like, if your check goes down, you have to go back to work, and then that slows everything down in your build, right? So you can put less time. So sometimes it's smarter to actually build under an existing leg and to kind of piggyback your volume off of somebody else until that new CC that you're using starts to build themselves. Now, you always hold on to enrollership, right? Because then that becomes your new qualifying leg. But I do have to give you one warning for that. If you put them down, levels in your organization, long-term, it absolutely hurts your unilevel. Almost every level that you put somebody down cuts your unilevel, not quite in half, but almost in half every time you move them down. So in some situations, that is the best thing to do. If you need to hold on to rank, and that's the only way to do it. So the number one thing to do, and the easiest thing to do, is starting a new leg. I usually tell people, hey, it's easier to give birth than raise people from the dead. A lot of times it's easier to work with someone that's brand new, has no baggage, right, is super excited, than to try and, scramble with people that have been demotivated or they're not super committed and capable. So just so you know, I really believe in this principle, and I put it to test in my own organization. I had a frontline, and they were in Asia, and she got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer and passed away. She gave her organization, it was a diamond organization, but kind of, a duct tape diamond organization, to her son. And because you can do that, it's a property. You can pass it on to people. And her son wanted nothing to do. He didn't want to build. He didn't want to share. He wasn't committed. He wasn't capable, nothing. But he wanted to hold on to the position and not do anything with it and just make money. So I had a big decision to make. I could either build for him and keep that going so that that could be a qualifying leg, or I could start another leg. At the time, there was 90,000 OV in that leg. And so I made a decision, because my goal is to have self-reliant leaders. That's my number one goal, is to have self-reliant leaders so that in time I could have time freedom. Well, we decided to build a new leg and not focus on that leg, because I would always have to be dragging him. Now, yes, if they need help, or they're always welcome and invited to all of our, the things that we do and our programs and things like that, but I do not focus on that leg. And it's fallen down. So if I can overlook 90,000 OV, you can for sure make better decisions with the 1,500 OV or the 2,000 that you're holding on to for so long and dragging people. Okay, the second thing that we can do is we can do what's called an account transfer. So an account transfer is where, and I'm going by easiest to hardest, right? An account transfer is where someone that hasn't been a wellness advocate before can actually move in to a position. So let's take the same scenario. Let's say you're trying to be diamond, or you're going diamond, and you have 3 CCs on your front line, so you're doing great. But one of your front line is a sharer. But there's a lot of good things happening in the organization and some great leaders. And you really want to work with that organization. But the sharer is a problem because you're constantly dragging them and you can't count on them. So what you can do is you can have a new person move in to that position and it becomes theirs. And the share, you have to, sometimes this is difficult. If it's a product user, it's a lot easier. They can just sign up somewhere else in the organization and buy product and actually still keep their, percentage of loyalty rewards percentage. But if it's a share, sometimes they're like, well, I kind of want the money from it. And you have to make it a win-win. Either you exchange product or sometimes even exchange money, and you can move somebody else into that position, and that's called an account transfer. Now, why wouldn't I say this would be the easiest thing to do and instead of building a new leg? Well, because when that new person moves in, they don't have relationships with all those people, right? That was already built before them, and sometimes that doesn't work out, and those relationships don't stick, or people don't listen to them, and they still keep coming back to you instead of this new person. So it's not the easiest thing to do. I would say it's the second easiest thing to do. But I'll tell you one mistake that a ton of people make with account transfers. They don't test their people before they transfer them in. And so they just bank on the fact that they say, yeah, I'll do the work, and maybe they've signed one person up, or I don't know, they can't sign before, they move in, but maybe they've brought somebody to the table. They don't test them properly. And so I have seen some leaders that have had to replace positions 4 and 5 times. That's years of wasting time and having to rebuild and rebuild and rebuild. You must test your leaders, especially if they're going to move into a pre-existing, position that has money that's already coming to them, right? Okay, the third thing, and the third, easiest thing to do is what's called an enrollership change. Now, the reason why I wouldn't say that this is the easiest is because this sometimes can be really offensive. And sometimes it makes people really angry. And they're like, you're trying to steal somebody from me, or it can hurt relationships. And so you have to be really, really sensitive with this. But let me tell you how it would work. Let's imagine you have 3 CCs on your front line, and under the share, you have a few people, and then kind of down in the organization, you have a committed and capable person. And the enrollership is going to somebody right above them, right? Well, you can actually go to that person that has the enrollership of the committed and capable person if they're not building, right? And basically say, I would like to take enrollership of this committed and capable leader, because you're not wanting to give them what they need to really develop their business. And they're going to stay where they're at. They're not going to move. So as I build them out and as I make them bigger and their organization, wider and fatter and deeper, it will actually pay you more with Unilevel for a long, long time. Now, some of the reasons why it's tricky is because some people think you're stealing them, or they don't get fast starts. So sometimes you have to make a win-win where you tell them for a certain period of time you'll give them fast starts back. And also some of them go, well, it's just a bad time for me, but I really want to come back to doTERRA and have that option of building. And so you simply can say, well, if you decide to build and build out a few other legs, then I can give, the enrollership back. But that way, now you have enrollership, even though they're farther down your organization, of a committed and capable leader. Because no matter where they are in your organization, if you have enrollership, you can count them as a qualified leg. The only problem with this is that if they're lower in the organization, you won't get paid as much in Unilevel, okay? So the enrollership change. Now, I would say, honestly, only 50% of the time this works. And please don't try and do this and have this conversation without talking with your diamond upline, and possibly even having your diamond upline help you and lead you along with them in the conversation, because it can be a touchy one. But it has proven beneficial for many people, and many, many people have used it. Okay, the next way that we can solve our placement problems is basically, it's called a swap. And if that sharer has a committed and capable person underneath them, or if it was a product user or whatever, but it was right immediately underneath them, they can actually swap, not accounts, like the positions will stay the same. All of the enrollerships, all of the legs, nothing will move if you look at like the organizational chart. But what changes is the names. So if you had a mother as a sharer and she signed up her daughter, and the mother wasn't really into building the business, but the daughter really wanted to, then the mother and the daughter, the top position would now become the daughter's name, and the bottom position could now become the daughter's name. And the reason why the daughter would want to swap into your frontline is because you give more time and energy and talents and resources into your frontline. And so sometimes it's really in her best interest to do that swap. So you might look through your organization. There might be some times where a placement swap is really appropriate, right? But I have to say that this isn't a guarantee. Like, this has to go through the company. You have to sign forms, and the company does not always agree with swaps. You know, if they're swapping and they feel like people will get helped less, or we're swapping with people that are really disengaged, and the more disengaged person is going on top, they're like, how is that going to help the organization? So there are times that they say no. So this is not, this is not a slam dunk. So this is the next easiest thing, okay? Next is terminating an account. Somebody can actually terminate their account. So if that share went into the company and asked to terminate their account, and if they haven't been a silver before, if they're less than silver, then the person right underneath them would roll up to your frontline position. And if you had a CC right underneath them, that would roll up and that would become your qualifying leg frontline. Now, if they've been silver before or more, it takes 12 months for them to roll up. So it definitely takes more time, right? Now, the reason why I don't love terminating accounts is because it's not really in doTERRA's culture, or at all in doTERRA's culture, to go through and just say, you need to get out, you need to get out, you need to get out, But sometimes it is appropriate if you can go to them and say, you're in an actual builder's position, and I know you don't want the stress and the pressure of building, and I really need to put somebody that's a builder into this position so that they can do the work as a builder. Let's go ahead and terminate your account, and you can sign up, somewhere else in the organization and buy product. So that is something that you can do. And some people actually, if you have a CC 2 levels down, they terminate the 2 in front or on top, and they do roll up. And it rolls up, and if it rolls up to your front line, you automatically receive the enrollership for that. So they become your qualifying leg. Okay, so the last thing that I want to go over is what we call the exceptions committee. Now, I have to say, with all of this, doTERRA has been really, really generous to us, because a lot of companies, they don't allow placements and swaps and, transfers. And if you stick somebody somewhere, they're there for good, period, forever, they're there. But doTERRA allows us to make it easier for us to build. And they allow us all these things that we can do, which I'm so grateful for. One of the things that does exist is called the Exceptions Committee. They meet twice a month, and they go over things that are exceptions, things that are hard, like intense family situations, or when something is, they look at exceptions. And all the things that we have listed before up there are not exceptions, but they look at exceptions. So I want to tell you, don't waste your time filling out all the forms, because you do have to fill out a bunch of forms for exceptions committee. And if you don't know how to do that, call your account manager. And if you don't have one, talk to your Diamond upline. But I want to go over the things that they will always say no to. So don't even waste your time. Don't waste your time or your upline's time signing forms or anything like that. So they will always say no to, if you're asking for a move. Let's say you want to move a leg over into somewhere else, and it immediately makes you a new rank. They will never, ever move it. It's always a no. Why? Because that's not fair. If somebody else built according to the rules and they did their best and they built and they're diamond, it's not okay for you to just shuffle things around and immediately become diamond. You have to build to that rank too, just like everyone else. And they try so hard and do such a good job in protecting the pools. And actually, if you look at it from not your perspective, but someone else's perspective, would you want 100 people just manipulating it to get into the diamond pool and then diluting the pools if you were in the pool and you make less? No, right? So the next thing that they always say no to is if whatever you're doing and you're moving places or people and it fills in your power of 3. They will always say no to that. Never, ever give you an immediate power of 3. And then the last thing, well, there's more things, but this is the basics. If that leg that you want to have moved, let's say, is over 1,000 points of volume, they will always say no to it. And the reason why is because, let's say I worked really strongly, or I helped a lot with my second level, okay? And I sponsored them in Diamond Club, and I gave them oils, and I did other things. And all of a sudden, my front line decides he's going to move that leg down 2 positions. That's what he wants to do. Well, that just cut my unilevel of what I just helped with significantly. And so they're trying to protect uplines and your, unilevel checks so that people can't do that. And you're having this check and all of a sudden, boom, it goes down because somebody makes an exception move. So if it's over 1,000 points, because that won't drastically affect your check, they won't move them. Now, exceptions are exactly what they're called. They're exceptions, which means 75% of the time the answer is no. If you send somebody something and you want an exception, the answer is almost always no, no, no. It's an exception. So please don't be the type of leaders that I've talked to that I say, okay, well, what's your plan for going gold? And they say, well, I put this exception in and this, and when all those happen, then all I have to do is build this leg to elite and I'm gold. And I'm like, that's not a plan. That's a dream. And that's a hope. That's a wish, right? But it's not a plan. So don't bank on exceptions. That's just a cherry on top if it happens. Don't bank on exceptions. So what you need to do is go over your entire organization and first list them as product user, sharers, product users, either committed or capable, or 2 C's, committed and capable, all 3 levels down. Like draw out the circles, put their names in it and say, she's a sharer, she's a product user, she's only committed, she's only capable, she's a CC, and see where your organization lies. It's super healthy. Sometimes it's depressing. But if we don't know where we're at, we can't have a plan and a strategy to change it. And lay out the entire organization and then look through your organization and find ways to, first say, okay, do I need to build a front line? Do I need to do a swap? Can I do any enrollership changes? Can I terminate an account? Or can I have, somebody move into a position? This is what Patrick and I do all the time with our organization, and we help other people come up with what we call a placements strategy. So for instance, if you had an organization and things were kind of all over the place, you might say, step 1, I need to find a new builder that's committed and capable. Step 2, place them on my front line. Step 3, I need to terminate this account and let my CC roll up. Step 4, I need to get enrollership change for this other leg. And step 5, I need to ask exception to swap, 2 people. That would be a placement strategy. Now, I know it's not as clear on a phone call, so I really want you after these calls to go to the webinar and watch the entire webinar of placements. And now that you know who you're looking for, right? And you know how to test them, and you also know the mistakes to avoid and how to fix them, you're totally ready for success. You're set up and ready to actually build in a way that you've never built before. So go for it, and let's make our businesses incredible. And and the biggest thing is, let's build in a way that we create self-reliant leaders that give us time freedom. Bye-bye, everyone.